Hello to everybody, I'm Marco Beato, researcher in sports science and consultant in high performance. Today I will present a topic titled Wheel-Resistant Training in Football, a useful rehabilitation tool for practitioners. This presentation is associated with a paper that I recently published with two colleagues of mine, Perna and Keijzer K. Considering that the evidence around the use of flywheel-resistant training in return-to-play programs in football is very limited, this presentation aims to provide a rationale for the use of flywheel training and propose an exercise to practitioners that can be integrated into return-to-play programs. Injury in football are a common occurrence given the nature of the sport. Previous research has shown that a team of 25 players can suffer around 50 injuries during a season, with players averaging 2 injuries per season. The most common injury in football occur to the thigh, the knee, and the ankle. These injuries can occur to a different mechanism, with the direct contact injury being the most frequent. Injuries can sideline players for a prolonged period of time and can negatively impact performance as well as club finances. It is therefore paramount that players return from injuries in the most effective way, and so an appropriate rehabilitation process is crucial for returning to optimal performance and reducing the likelihood of re-injuries in football. So we have understood the aim of the rehabilitation process, so to return the player to the previous level and to reduce the likelihood of re-injury during the process and after the return to play or return to performance. Here in this graphic, you can see a graphical representation of the rehabilitation process and also the on-field rehabilitation. And if you want to have more information about this specific topic and different phases of the return to play, please read this paper that we have recently published with Mark Armitage as a first author. Anyway, the rehabilitation process should take into account the different members of the team. So the team should be interdisciplinary. So you should involve the medical doctors, the performance, and the technical staff, and also sometimes some external stakeholders in order to optimize the return to play and return to performance process. A key component of the successful return to play program is the appropriate and timely integration of strength training. Strength training aims to gradually rebuild muscle tendinous strength to ensure that the player can cope with the physical demands of on-pitch training and matches upon return while minimize risk of re-injury. Nordic hamstring exercise is used during the return to play process for strengthening the hams and reducing the likelihood of injury. We know that Nordic hamstring exercise is quite a cost-effective strategy and a very popular one. There are a lot of information about the effectiveness of this exercise in PubMed. So if you check there or also simply in Google, you can find a lot of information about its effectiveness, previous studies, and also different applications. From an exercise modality point of view, during the Nordic exercise, the player starts in a kneeling position with the ankle secured. After the player moves the upper body forward, maintaining a straight line from the head to heels, using only their hamstring to control the descending phase. In this case, the athlete's player can have an eccentric contraction. However, Nordic hamstring exercise has also some important limitations, and here I have reported only two of them. The first one is about the management of the intensity. So in particular, the progression. We know that one of the principles of strength training is the progressive overload, or anyway, progression of the load. And with the Nordic hamstring exercise, this is quite difficult because the player generally use their body weight, and it's possible to add some external masses, but the progression is not very simple. The second issue is about the range of motion. So the knee angles generally range between 90 and 60 degrees, and these angles are not specific for the commonly hamstring injuries that a player have. So generally the ankle of the Nordic hamstring exercise don't match the angles when the hamstring injury happen. And also, to be honest, even the speed of the Nordic hamstring exercise is quite slow. The injuries that can happen at high speed, for example, during high sprint activity or during high speed running activities. In this presentation, I wanted to suggest an alternative to any isotonic exercise or Nordic hamstring. With a flywheel resistant training, that is a device that uses a flywheel to generate resistance, and you can see that in the picture B compared to the picture A, that is a traditional stack machine, it's possible to obtain a high intensity during the concentric phase, but also during the eccentric phase. So practically what happens? During the concentric phase, the athletes spin the flywheel, and this generates inertial torque. After the range of motion, for example, during the squat, so during the at the end of the first phase of the squat, so when the athlete is, for example, standing, the flywheel disc will continue to rotate and will require the athletes to decelerate the disc during the descending phase, so during the deceleration. So the athletes will perform an effort in the concentric phase, going up, spinning the device, but the torque that is generated needs to be slowed down, and the athletes need to break the action. In this case, it's also to have an eccentric contraction. On the base of the characteristic of the disc and on the moment of inertia, it's possible to evaluate also the power output or the force output during both concentric and eccentric phases. Flywheel training benefits are not only related to the eccentric movement phase, but they are due to the combination of both concentric and eccentric contraction during the same exercise. Although the concentric contraction in flywheel exercise has received a lower interest compared to the eccentric contraction, it plays a key role in the obtainment of the specific adaptation, like neuromuscular and morphological. And it is also a necessary component for the development of the subsequent eccentric contraction. So in a few words, without the concentric contraction, it is not possible to have an adequate eccentric contraction. The two characteristics for high intensity flywheel training are the moment of inertia, so the combination of disc, and the effort that has to be maximal in both concentric and eccentric. And here we have a video that is quite interesting for you and show, for example, some contraction. So here you have the concentric contraction and the following eccentric one. Let's have another view. So you can see a maximal effort in the concentric contraction and after the deceleration phase. And this is a combination of concentric and eccentric contraction that will generate the neuromuscular and morphological adaptation that we are looking for. Here at the contrary, you can see another paper that show some benefits about the flywheel resistant training, in particular for the hamstring injuries. This is a motivation because flywheel training can be considered a valid alternative to, for example, Nordic hamstring exercise or any other eccentric based exercise for the player hamstring. So in this specific study, for example, after a 16 session of resistant training with a flywheel curl, the training group increased the peak torque in concentric and the peak torque in eccentric. They obtained also some other adaptation, but the main adaptation was a increment in strength in both concentric and eccentric contraction, and also a reduction in the distribution of hamstring injuries compared to a control group. In another study published by Elena Norbrand, that is the one that you see in this moment, there was a comparison between a stack machine and a flywheel device. The stack machine is on the left, the flywheel device is on the right of the screen. So one of the things that you see immediately if you check the power picture is that the stack machine has a peak in the power output during the concentric phase, but during the eccentric phase, the power output is quite small. If you check on the right, the flywheel device has a very high value in power in the concentric, but also in the eccentric phase. If you see above, when we talk about force, this indication is also clearer. If we check, in this case, the last comparison, that is about the MG, you can see that the vastolateralis, vastomedialis, and rectofemoris are mainly activated during the concentric phase with the stack machine and less with a lower intensity during the centric phase. At the contrary, when you check the flywheel device, you can see that actually the peak happened during the eccentric phase, and that this is another evidence about the effort that the muscle needed to produce during both concentric and eccentric phase. And this is a motivation because flywheel resistance training cannot be considered only an eccentric based exercise, but is an exercise that is complete because the benefits derive from the combination of concentric and eccentric contractions. In this specific paper that we have published, that is related to the presentation of today, you can see that we have prepared some specific rehabilitation session. You have figure 1 and figure 2 with the table on the right, and the figure 3 and figure 4 with another table on the right. As you can see, we never proposed to use flywheel resistance training in isolation, but we suggested to combine different exercise with the flywheel because we don't believe that the flywheel resistance training should be used only in isolation. So the benefits of isotonic exercise with flywheel devices are greater if the exercises are combined. So in the first figure, you can see a squat flywheel. In the figure 2, you can see a flywheel split squat. So here you have a bipodalic exercise and a monopodalic exercise. So 2 legs and single leg exercise. This is a combination of exercise that can be particularly interesting when athletes need to reduce, for example, muscle asymmetries after an injury, for example, after a hamstring injury or after any injury. In the second case, figure 3 and figure 4, you can see 2 different exercises. This time they are open kinetic chain compared to the figure 1 and figure 2 that were closed kinetic chain. And in this case, we have a leg curl flywheel and a hip extension flywheel. Also, in this case, we suggest during the rehabilitation session to combine flywheel devices, flywheel training with other exercises. And here we have 2 videos that I want to show you that are specific for the 2 open kinetic chain exercise. So we have a leg curl where you can see the concentric component and eccentric component of the exercise. In this case, the movement is relatively small and controlled because we are talking about rehabilitation, obviously increasing the intensity, so the moment of inertia. So the combination of this is possible to increase the resistance. And as you have understood, if you increase the speed of the exercise, you will increase anyway the power output. The second exercise is a hip extension that simulates a bit the movement happened during high-speed running or sprinting activities. And we have I want to show you that again. You have a concentric phase and an eccentric phase, concentric phase and eccentric phase. So the benefits to the hamstring derive by both phases of the exercise. So I take the opportunity to thank you very much for your attention. I believe you have understood that flywheel resistance training can be a valid addition to your set of exercise and device that you can use during the rehabilitation process. And if you want more information about this type of technology, there are some other videos in this YouTube channel, or you can find some other information in PubMed if you're looking for papers that I have published. Or if you want to have further detail about rehabilitation and flywheel training, you can look for the paper that we just published in Frontiers. Thank you very much for your attention.